Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to F1 Manager. This is episode 96. The developers have announced that the next F1 Manager will be on its way, but they have not stated what their release date is as of yet. But it's obvious that it is absolutely 100% coming. So, knowing that, what I said in the last episode still stands. It's still we have an end in sight. The end is semi-near, and there's a limited time frame. And as in regards of what to do with this new testing period, which has now started, meaning it's time to either develop the current car or start research for next year. Well, what do? Where do you go from here? Major regulation changes coming. We have a car that right now is pretty good. Top speed and acceleration right at the top, but it's all neck and neck. We're first in most areas. We're only lagging behind on that brake cooling, engine cooling, and we are going to see significant changes in next year's car. Huge drop. So we clearly have to put something into that car, but how much do we want to still address now? How much do we want to keep this year's car going? And, of course, the bigger question is what sort of pacing do I want to set for the remainder of this season in preparation to make sure we were to get to next season? I was hoping for a little more feedback when it came to that last episode, and there just really wasn't any. So a lot of you are, I suppose, defaulting to whatever I decide. So here is the decision. The cars are close, competition's close. Last year's title was close. This year's title is going to be close. But it's all more of the same. Next year is going to provide a massive curveball. And we haven't had a massive curveball since the start of this. We had a slow car that we built up and made competitive. We had a couple drivers who come with their flaws, and we're working out those flaws to make them better. They get wins, the combination of a good car and good enough drivers and good strategy gets wins, or they struggle. But we've been consistent, enough so that we got the constructors last year. I'm really curious to see what it'll be like in a year under different circumstances. Where we're going to try things on for size we'll see if we can squeeze in a couple races within one episode and kind of go from there. Skipping straight to, second round qualifying kind of stuff and speeding things along. We'll see what I can do pace-wise, but I really want to see what next season has in store for us. So my goal is to get to next season still within this development cycle of F1 Manager before we get into the next one. So let's start speeding things up. As for what to do with the car itself, here's the plan. If I have 4 parts in every cycle that are going to be 4 potential upgrades that we could do anyway, that doesn't roll out great if we put all of that into research, or if we put all of that into the current car. Either way, you're not doing well. I think the regulation changes are enough that we need to put a majority of our attention in next year's car, but for the time being, some of our attention, the weak points of this year's car, will still be addressed. So for now, I'm going to do 1 current era car upgrade per cycle, and I'll do 3 research projects. That's the plan. The first current era is chassis, and you can see that's going to bring it up from just about average to definitely better side of average. I'm not going to do this for all of the parts, but briefly here, the first one, a 50% reduction across the board to the underfloor, which of course we have a very good underfloor as of right now, but you can see just how massive the drop is for next year's car at this point. And without even adding any hours, we're looking at healthy upgrades, which means we actually really could do more than just 3 research projects at a time. We can just kind of keep pumping them out, even without the hours, because you can definitely see some gains. The plan short term is to focus on the ones that have the biggest impact, the ones that are in good shape right now, where we're at the top of the grid already, so I know that they're not weak points. That means front wing, rear wing, underfloor, chassis, side pod, suspension will still get a little more attention for this year, and then we'll take those as base points to start research a little bit later in the year, as those matter a bit less anyway. They'll have less of an impact on the car. So as we're doing triple projects early on here, they're going to go in that direction. Now that front wing's going to be one we got to keep an eye on, because the front wing's the 70% decrease where everything else has the 50%. So that front wing's really, really going to be impacted. Next up is Miami, where of course they just raced in real life. Jack Doohan was second a year ago, where Pourchaire did not finish the race 30 laps before the end. He went out of it. I don't remember what happened in those regards, but Doohan with a near victory. He was 7 seconds behind Sainz, so that wasn't close, and finished just ahead of 3 cars, Ocon, Russell, and Norris, possibly with some late overtakes on that one for Doohan to get that second place. That was definitely his best career finish up to that point.
We're in the state of year-round summer. It's the Miami Grand Prix, and we're here in Florida at the Miami International Autodrome. The streets of Miami Gardens will come alive with the roar of racing, and the excitement is only just beginning.
Practice, first portion of qualifying, both cars were comfortably in the top 10, so I went ahead and bypassed qualifying 2 as well, and Jack Doohan ends up 11th. So Doohan is out. We'll start the race from 11th. We have just Pourchaire, who is currently P4 with the Red Bulls, the quickest as we head into Q3. As Pourchaire begins his final flying lap, we of course at least have our fresh set for this one. We had the U set for the first one, which is opposite, of course, to everybody else. And Pourchaire still managed to go 5th fastest on that first run. So disappointing that Doohan's not here, as it's quite clear that we have enough pace to compete for a top 5. We are purple in Sector 1 with Pourchaire on that brand new set. How are we looking in Sector 2? Checker flag has come out. Let's put that back up. And we are purple for Sector 2. Right now we are leaning towards pole as we hit the backstretch. For now we're down to P7, as a couple cars have definitely improved their time, but with 2 purple sectors and the way we are closing in on the Ferrari here at the finish line, it is easily pole by more than half a second. Makes the Doohan Q2 mistake all the more sad. 126.8, we are the first car. No, we're not the first car. Verstappen went 126.9 in Q2. But first and 11th. The one-stopper worked just fine in real life. We're going to aim for that here as well, though the tire life looks like it's going to really drop off in those final laps. Doohan, do I want to flip this and go the other way? I'm going to flip this and go hard, then mediums. With that poor starting spot from 11th place, I'm thinking more of what Hamilton did as opposed to what Verstappen did, because if you're driving a rocket ship, it's not hard to pass cars. I mean, he passed 2 cars at once quite easily. I mean, there wasn't much effort involved. He's got a freaking rocket ship. Hamilton, on the other hand, his strategy going hard medium worked out really well, as he had some pace at the end of that race that a lot of other cars did not have, and he had enough pace to hang on in the train. If it wasn't for that DRS train that he had, he would have finished even higher. Let's hope Doohan doesn't get caught up too much in the field, spread out too far. But as close as our field is compared to the real life field, I think we're looking at cars that are just so intensely close to each other that there's not going to be big gaps. So Pourchaire is going to be out front, and then trying to hang on, it's going to be harder for him. I think Doohan's got a good chance of moving forward quite a bit, but Pourchaire is certainly in a better starting spot and should ultimately finish higher than Doohan. But I think Doohan's strategy could work out pretty well. We got up to 82 and 89% confidence, which is fairly decent. You're going to get good bonuses out of that. We're missing like 1 point of bonuses by taking this strategy, but I mean, come on, we're saving a ton of time here to make this a 2-race episode. I got a lot to do if it's going to be a 2-race episode, so let's get to it.
Now we should have good weather for the race, and that will be welcome news for the teams. Williams here. They're starting today at the head of the pack, but will they be able to stay there? And looking at the second Williams car. Slower than most yesterday, so today they'll be starting from the bottom half of the grid. The teams are ready to go. And this is it, the Miami Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
Not a fan of the inside start position here, but it works out. Porsche already ahead, so we've got a long ways to go on those tires. Let's focus on doing in his position. Porsche very well could lose that lead to Verstappen soon enough, but he's in a comfortable enough spot that he really should not be dropping outside of the top 2 positions anytime soon, especially with Gasly in the Mercedes starting from P3, which is a very unusual place for that Mercedes to be. Perez ahead of us in the Ferrari. That's a little bit of not a great scenario because it's going to be harder to pass the Ferrari than some of the other cars, but they are also on the hard compound. Let's check where we're at on that one. Wow, no, I'm surprised how many cars have started on the hards. That's a lot. That is a lot. Can we get up the inside of Perez down the backstretch? We do. We'll have the inside for the next couple of corners, and that should see us through into 10th place, and it does. Bottas, the next car ahead of us. Preserving tire life, please. Let's go ahead and settle in. We're 10th. Porsche still holding on to first for now. Once we get DRS, we'll see about trying to pass Bottas. The overtake is on. We're going to be in a strong position here. We've got the DRS. We're going to get up the outside, but we're going to tuck back in. And then we get up the outside again, but then tuck back in. This is a really difficult area to try to make a pass through.
Red Bull gained a
But
place.
we are in a strong position here down the straight. And no DRS for Bottas, so that makes the pass quite easy. And hopefully close enough to these guys ahead. Not quite. 1.5 behind, so we're going to have to keep pushing on for a little bit longer. Let's go neutral, though. And we will be aggressive to try to close that up. Sainz and Russell. Sainz looking to fall out of DRS range, but we are 1.6 behind. Ocon is 1.5 behind, so there's an advantage going forward as we are into P9, and but at the moment, not closing up on these guys. Russell's in the mediums, but Sainz ahead of him is not. Down to 1.2. Now we're making progress. That the aerodynamics of that sector, those tight corners in there, we gain. So we've got it to 1.2 now. Sainz was just out of DRS range. Those guys kind of getting a tow all the way up to Porsche, really.
It's a stonking lap.
New fastest lap from doing, but we're still 1.2 behind. I think we're going to have to keep pushing on for the remainder of this lap. These couple technical sectors, we should be able to close up that little bit more and get in DRS range. Holding at 1.2 now. You can see how we gain about a tenth through there, but then down the straight with the DRS, they seem to pull away a little bit, 1.3. But here's the area where we seem to gain the most. Already down to 1.2. Come on, dude. Inside a second. 9/10. And we hit the DRS detection zone. That should be closing us up. Just about, just about, just about. Standard. Another new fastest lap. Porsche and Verstappen swapping positions again. And we've got Bottas out of DRS range.
Red Bull moved up.
And Ricardo's like 3.7 down, so soon a big gap open it up behind. We could see the top 9 driving away a bit here. So we're going to push on a little bit more to open that gap to Bottas behind us. Obviously, we've got the DRS now. But keeping him out of DRS range. And Verstappen and Porsche have enough pace to seemingly pull away from these guys. There we go. Mediums pulling the hards around the track, which means it's going to be harder. It's going to be harder on Porsche and Verstappen later on. I told you, it's not looking fantastic, but they're going to have some spare fuel to be able to push when the time comes. Norris falls out of DRS range, but then somebody passes him and gets right back in DRS range. Competitor crash. That was ahead of us. That was somebody just ahead of us. Porsche overtaking Verstappen. I don't see who the crash is. Magnussen.
Let's have a look. Now let's watch this. The Alfa Romeo involved in this one.
Magnussen with the lockup,
There's the crash.
puts it in the wall, and there we were passing just behind. So that was a top competitor. It was an Alfa Romeo, but it was an Alfa Romeo that was high placed. He gets started again though from P10, and so racing resumed. He's in that gap in between. He's obviously going to have some issues with.
Don't know what we have left.
Ooh, Sainz and Russell now holding this up. Let's go engine up for a bit and see what happens. 1.2, 1.1. We definitely seem to have the pace. We'll go aggressive for a little bit here to try to close that up a little bit more and get in that DRS train. Though it's going to pull Sainz and Russell back in there. And Bottas. And the first round of pit stops have begun, even though Porsche is not even in his pit window yet. So you're looking at guys going for the two-stopper. We're looking at a lot of guys going for the two-stopper. That will absolutely change certain outcomes. That will open up certain gaps. Woo, hello. Wow, that seemed to come out of nowhere. I was looking at the timing screen, and all of a sudden we almost crash into the back of Norris. And that is our teammate in sight. So do it from 11th has closed that right up, and being on the hards in a much better state. But hards that are down to 55% because we've been pushing too hard to make some overtakes to go from 11th up to 6th on track. 5 overtakes already, which is fantastic, but some tire usage that is not so fantastic. Meanwhile, Porsche has just been driving quite comfortably, making things work, making things last, having plenty of fuel to make a move later on. Meanwhile, well, we've got some work to do here. We're going to start with harvesting. As Norris is suddenly a second behind Gasly.
And a new position, just gained by Williams.
Porsche back ahead of Verstappen again. Let's go neutral as we've already recovered a little bit. He's closed that back up. Sainz behind us though is 1.3 down. So we've just broken toe from those guys seemingly. All of a sudden they close it back up. Those back markers, including Magnussen now after his mistake, those guys are in a hard way and looking at a two-stopper, and they're not going to have the pace out here on their own. The DRS was going to be very important to them, so they've put themselves in a pretty iffy spot. Porsche passed by Leclerc. That 36% here on the mediums is starting to be an issue.
Race position.
Contest. Norris 2 seconds back. Guan Yu Zhou 7 seconds back. So that's your group. Russell into the pits, Bottas into the pits. So 2 of the front runners have pit already. Those were the other guys on the mediums. Verstappen's probably going to pit this lap, which is why I think with Porsche we're going to wait a little bit. We have the pace of Leclerc to help pull us around anyway, as long as we're able to stay within DRS range of him. Staying out longer, extending, is going to make life easier once we do switch to the hards. So that is the strategy there. But do it now, struggling to keep up. Gasly, Norris, Sainz all pitting. Those on the hards
And a new
are starting to
position
pit.
just gained by
That's surprising.
Williams.
Those guys are going for 2 stoppers. They're going to go hard, medium, medium. The 1 stopper does not seem to be the preferred strategy today. I think our pace is going to play into a 1 stopper actually working pretty well. Yes, we lost a couple of seconds, but we're going to save an entire pit stop. Losing 3 to 4 seconds on each stint, but gaining 20 to 28 seconds of pit stop time. I think it's low 20 here. You don't lose as much time on a pit stop here, but if we lose 8 seconds total, oh, there you go, Leclerc into the pits. It's time. Last 4 to pit, Perez, Ocon. So Magnussen's the first one that is pit. Magnussen is first place essentially with that early pit stop. So there seems to be a pretty solid pace advantage out there to pitting. Perez also into the pits though. Fortunately does not impact us. Porsche comes back out all the way down in P12. Holy cow. Schumacher, Sonoda are about 2.5 seconds back outside of that DRS trade, but Magnussen's not terribly fast, so it's definitely bunched up the field just a bit. Verstappen has gone around Gasly and Verstappen have gone around Magnussen now, and they are 10 seconds behind. But if they battle each other, that'll help slow them up a little bit for Doohan, who has just that 1 stop to make and has to try to extend here a bit. He's got a couple laps to go till he pits. He's down to 8 seconds. They pulled back 2 seconds there. This is not looking great for Doohan in terms of lap time. He's doing really poor here at the moment. Let's push to make it a little bit less damaging as he loses 2 more seconds on that lap. So Doohan enters the pits 1 lap early as that gap was down to 4 seconds already. We were losing 2 seconds a lap there. We really, really fell off that cliff. Going to put us towards the back end, but we are done with our pit stops. We're back behind Perez, so all that progress we made pushing through the field didn't work out too great. But with 23 laps to go, we already know that Porsche easily made it 28. So all these extra pit stops that guys are going to be making is going to make a difference as we sit in P9 and P18. And we're going to let these guys run for a while here. Nope, you don't need to push that. We need to recover that fuel. Doohan around Perez up to P16.
Alpine just advanced.
Porsche gets around Norris and is into P8. So naturally making some pits. Magnussen makes his second pit stop. So P7, P15 for now as we start that progress.
Low fuel, so be mindful of that.
And I do suspect that a number of cars, most of the field it looks like, are going to be making second pit stops. Porsche all over the back of Leclerc. Fails on the overtake there. Ricardo runs wide. Bottas into the pits. There you go, up to P6 now. Do it up to P14. Porsche again close to Leclerc. Let's go engine up, see if that will help him get around him. As another car pit. Somebody. Do it now up to P13. 3 more cars pit. Okay, settle down behind Russell. Russell's 3.8 behind Verstappen. And goes around him with help of DRS. New fastest lap. 3.6 down on Verstappen. Doohan, meanwhile, is up to P8. And he sets the new fastest lap now. So we are quick. But Doohan's stuck behind cars right now. Just being patient because most of them are getting out of the way and pitting. Porsche, 3.6, but closing on Verstappen. He's gained a few tenths. So he is faster than Verstappen is. And you can see that the 2 Red Bulls plus Porsche are way out front. And we are done pitting. So right now we want to be patient. 3 more cars pit, and now Doohan is up to P6. Gasly and Co are 16 seconds back. So Doohan not guaranteed about the Red Bull. If the Red Bulls pit again, Porsche's winning this race. Barring any mistakes, of course. He'll have enough. Of course, he'll be a little slow at the end, but we extended by enough laps that his hard compound, and he's not pushing to make any passes or anything like that, will make it a lot easier for him to go forward. Doohan has gone clear of some traffic, now has Gasly 3.5 seconds ahead. Still 0.1. Porsche has caught Verstappen, by the way, and is just 8/10 behind Russell. Or Russell 8/10 behind. So we nearly put him out of DRS range, but he's seemingly closing that up. We can wait on the overtake. That's going to be super easy. But Doohan 9/10 behind Leclerc. That's not good. Where's that DRS? Over a second behind. We're not going to get DRS. Doohan slow on these mediums. He's going to go backwards. He's not going to get P5.
And a new position.
We're going to be lucky to get P6 now.
Williams.
Holding off Magnussen's going to be easier, but... we had only had one mistake all day. One more than they had in real life. And, oh, AlphaTauri runs wide. Goes across the...
increase, please.
across the apex to the inside of the track on the following corner, and then rejoins and drives straight into Ocon. So Ocon, who actually had just set the fastest lap as well, is wiped out by, what, Sonoda? No, it's a Haas. That's AlphaTauri. Schumacher, probably. But do it just outside of that 1 second. That hurts. That hurts, Doohan. What you doing, buddy? Porsche almost having Verstappen out of range. But with those 3 DRS zones, we just can't quite shake him. Russell out of DRS range, though. Doohan back in DRS range on Leclerc. For a fraction of a second, and then he loses it again. Right before the detection zone. But Leclerc doesn't have DRS either, so down the straight with the push. We've got it. We've got it. Okay. Go neutral, save that for the final lap. Porsche, half a second ahead. Has the fuel. Has the defend. We should be okay on holding off Verstappen and Doohan now. Still back in play for P5. Back in play for P5. We have a chance here to... we're going to set overtake. We're going to set push. And we're going to go aggressive. We're going to try to go forward instead of backwards. P5 might still be in play, with DRS especially, Leclerc already being challenged. And Porsche begins the final lap of the race. Just 2/10 ahead of Verstappen. Verstappen closing us down. Doohan, overtake failed. But again with DRS and challenging, as we cross the line to begin the final lap, we are up the inside, but it's going to become the outside. Yeah, Leclerc's at 58%. That's a difficult overtake to make. 36, 35, 32. 4/10 ahead. Go aggressive here on this final lap.
So heads down.
Okay,
Focus.
checking in with Porsche. Less than half a lap to go. Meanwhile, Doohan full attack.
Let's close this gap.
Copy.
Overtake is on. DRS is on. We're going to get up the outside. We're going to hold him here for the next... No. That was it. Final straight. 6/10 ahead of Verstappen. Still 6/10 ahead. Battery's empty though. Deploy. We hold him off. We hold him off. Pourchaire's going to claim the victory. One corner. Oh, is he? Attack, attack, attack. Oh boy.
Happy to push maximum in high speed.
And that's the win.
Push no maximum.
Dewitt has gone around Leclerc meanwhile. Dewitt has gone around Leclerc. We'll try to catch that replay if it doesn't just suddenly end on us.
Okay, check it flag. Check it flag.
Dewitt made probably under braking down that backstretch. And Dewitt takes P5, so we do get P5 at the end. So that's a P1, P5, Red Bull P2, P3 though. So that's not going to be a big gain. Ocon does have the fastest lap. He's outside of the points though, so he won't be able to collect. Ferrari struggled today. McLaren struggled today. Neither one will pick up very many points. That means these two,
Copy.
us and Red Bull, are going to pull a big amount of points over the other teams. We are going to gain a couple on Red Bull today. At the top of the standings, Pourchaire pulls within 3 points of Russell. It's Verstappen, though, who was in second today, so he picks up the 18. Russell just 15. Dewitt sits P5, now just a handful of points behind Leclerc. In the Constructors, we gain 3 points on Red Bull and move into, or already had, I guess, second place. In the Constructors. With our win the last time, we moved up into second place, but you can see now a huge gap to Ferrari in third, and McLaren, they fall well behind, and now all of a sudden you got a 2-horse race with Red Bull just 14 points behind. A lot of season left to go. Next up is Catalonia. So in Spain, Pourchaire took 4th place last year. Dewitt did not finish and crashed out pretty early in the race, so let's hope for better this time around, and overall better as a team, as we were quite some distance. We were nearly half a minute down and finished just ahead of a group of cars. We pulled away by more than a couple seconds in the final laps. I think we had kind of waited on our pit stop and had that pace advantage as we came through a few cars and then pulled away in the final few laps, but otherwise we were way behind the front three. In the last race, we managed to get the final gearbox on both cars installed in and used. So they've all been broken in now. So that means when something crazy happens, we can take those penalties. Another maybe miss in Q2 could become a opportunity for one of those cars to take those penalties and get that extra set for the season. That'll help us, get to the end of the year without too many issues. Q3 final flying lap here for the Spanish Grand Prix, and Pourchaire and Dewitt both sit on the front row already with the used set. We should be having better times here in this final run. Pourchaire is the one who currently sits P2, trying to take pole away from his teammate. I think this would be Dewitt's first pole. I know we've had some poles for Pourchaire, and neither driver has gone faster in the first sector, surprisingly. The brand new set, not as quick. Does that mean the second a slightly used set is actually faster here? I don't think the game quite has that concept figured out, but Verstappen certainly has improved, and only Pourchaire has improved in Sector 2, so the pole is not on as of right now. Pourchaire really the only one with a chance to still get there, but he's going to have to improve a lot here in Sector 3. He's definitely going to have to be purple, and he's not, and he beats his teammate only just. But Verstappen is the one who's going to be on pole. But a row 1 for Pourchaire and a row 2 for Dewitt, a second and third start position, is pretty good, especially for sitting things out for the most part. Let's get to the race.
It's a bit of a cloudy day for the race, but the atmosphere, as ever, is electric. Here's Williams. A second place start for them today. They're in with a real chance. And looking at the second Williams car, they're up in third position, tantalisingly close to pole. And we're just moments away now. One of the oldest races on the Formula One calendar. This is the Spanish Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
All right, we are racing here in Spain, and we're going to do so quickly. I think all we need to do is make sure that we are part of the procession and not overtaken from behind. So we will be settling in pretty quickly. I don't necessarily even need to go first, so we're not going to push here. If we go first, that's great, but if not, I don't care. That does have us out front. Doing down to fourth, though, that's the one that I was trying to avoid. I was trying to make sure that we are ahead of the second Red Bull, and we ultimately do get there. So let's go ahead and settle in here as well.
And a new position.
Let's let things play out for a while. We are already up front. Ooh, a 1-2 would be a nice position to be in. Latifi with a lockup. No damage, though. Not catching anybody else out. Can we get ahead of the Red Bull? And we do. It's a 1-2. Let's speed things up. It's okay if we don't hold that. We're looking at a two-stopper with medium, medium, soft. The mediums are good. We have two sets of mediums for both cars. The final run at the end of Q3, those tires are what are going to have to go on for the end of the race, so they will be slightly used, as there are no new soft compound tires left for this one. We are 0.4 of a second ahead of Verstappen right now, who's ahead of Russell, then Norris, Albon, Leclerc, Magnussen, Perez, and Guan Yu Zhou round out the top 10. For now, nobody is out of DRS range until all the way down to Lance Stroll in 16th in the Aston Martin.
It's a stonking lap.
Lap 4, DRS is now open. Doohan has overtaken Porsche, that DRS advantage, and Schumacher. That one group is the only one that's out of DRS range for now. 2.5 back. We'll see at some point. Leclerc is 9/10 behind. It'd be nice if we can get something a little bit higher up the grid to open. But for now, it's just the one group that's slowly slipping back. Otherwise, the field is very, very tight. Doing it Porsche, exchanging fastest laps. And leading the way. But pulling everybody else around with them. Albon gets to just over a second for just a moment, but then closes it back up. See, he's hovering around that range. Now Magnussen has slipped out, so this could be good. 1.9. And we have a crash. Sector 1. Crash in Sector 1. Yellow flags. Just local yellows for now.
Yellow ahead, yellow ahead.
Yeah, copy that.
Let's take a look at the replay. Now let's look. We're
Latifi and the
Nicholas
Haas.
Latifi.
With the Haas ahead of him. He's just going to run wide.
There, we see the crash.
Just brushes the wall. It's just a little minor wing damage is all. But meanwhile, Perez just out of DRS range and slipping back, and you can definitely see they're losing that DRS. Now pushing to 2 seconds. So top 7 starting to pull away just a bit. With that second train forming. You can see the tires already down to 71%, so not pushing on a day like this and just kind of running is important, and seeing those gaps emerge is going to be really important when it comes time to pit stops, because we don't want to get caught up pitting at the same time as others. So we are going to have to try to offset a little bit, which probably means going long, and we've entered the pit wing. Norris losing the train, so Norris and Albon falling back. So Albon actually 3 seconds back. Leclerc 3 seconds back. So we're looking at the top 5 pulling away, and we've started to lose Norris. So this could be a Williams Red Bull top 2 driving away from everybody else. Potentially Norris just barely hanging on. Doohan's out front right now. Let's push. Norris 1.2. Drive that a little bit faster. You drive away from Norris. And Norris pits anyway. Albon pits.
the track.
And Verstappen with the lockup. So much for whatever he's gained. He'll find himself behind Russell already. 2.7 on the stop for doing. Not a great stop. He's going to come out ahead of this group. He comes out ahead of this group. Yes, he's still in second place. With Tsunoda, Stroll, Norris separating him from Russell. And then, of course, the mistake. Mistake holding Verstappen back. He loses a few positions before he rejoins. He's now in 8th place, and Russell caught up in traffic. Let's see if we can get Doohan out front as well. Or, sorry, Pourchaire, as Doohan's already out front. 2.6, better stop from Pourchaire. 10th of a second better. Teammate does go by, but look at that space. Yes. He ran wide, but he's okay. Let's see a replay of that one.
Now we see the Williams here.
He was in the lead. He runs wide, but he is able to continue. He is able to continue. He is still in P2. He is 3.6 behind Pourchaire, down running on his own, and Russell is 4.3 behind, speeding things back up. Norris has gone around Russell. Verstappen has recovered a little bit. He's back up there anyway. He's back up to P5. Russell back around Norris. Multiple cars have crashed. Sector 3. Please don't bunch the field up. Local yellow. No, safety cars coming out. Safety cars coming out. There goes our advantage.
Safety car, safety car.
We're already past
And I respect the
pit
debate.
lane.
Stay positive.
We're already past pit lane. Is it... It's way too early to pit. Way too early. So we're going to have to stay out. Let's see what happens with everybody else.
It's chaos on the track. Let's see what happened there. Now, just watch the Mercedes here.
Mercedes behind the Alpine. He's going to lock up, get into the back of him as you go to the hairpin.
The collision. It's caused absolute carnage.
Wow. Just murdered the Alpine. Ocon picks up the penalty. Ricardo is out. And safety car has bunched us up. That last window, pit stop window, will open fairly soon. Norris now 2.3 behind. We're pulling away, but we've got a yellow flag in Sector 1. And it's a Red Bull. Verstappen with his second big mistake of the day, and he's going to go all the way to last place. He rejoins the track,
Yellow head.
but he has crashed, so he's going to have damage as well. That's going to rule him out of the points entirely today. So Verstappen's bad day gets worse. Runs wide, brushes the wall. He'll want to change that wing. He'll want to get his seemingly final pit stop in. And that will not bunch the field up, so that is amazing news. 2.3 ahead of Norris, so we are pulling away. Verstappen does not pit. He's going to continue on from P18. He's going to wait till his probably regularly scheduled pit stop. He might change the wing at that point, but we enter the pit window. Ooh, that was quick. First handful of cars already into the pits before we even get to our portion of the window. Somebody has crashed yet again. McLaren, same corner. Signs. It's signs. Safety car is starting. We are going to double stack. We're going to pit right now. Pourchaire from P4 with some slower cars ahead, should have an easy time moving forward.
Push on with the tyres.
Doohan has had a slow start. He's down to P7? No, he's back up to P6.
Register left and co.
Actually, he was P7 anyway. Right, he had 2 cars past him, so he's made his way past Leclerc. So Doohan is already past Leclerc. Porsche, meanwhile, did not get a very good start. Stroll's still ahead of us. There we go. Now we get up beside Stroll, but we're going to be around the outside for a couple turns here. But we're going to continue right on to face Ocon. Ocon might be carrying damage, so even though he's on the softs, he's not in a great position. But if Porsche gets through past Tsunoda here quickly, you know that we will easily drive away from these guys. We're going to go down to standard, though, and neutral, and actually deploy. Let's get away from them. Meanwhile, Doohan already starting to battle Russell for P5, and then he's got the same 3 guys to get past. We're going to be careful with the tires as they will consume quite fast. We pit a lap or 2 early, had the safety car, so that makes up for it as we get up beside Stroll. Same place. I think same place, anyway. And now Ocon is next. And you can see how Porsche has already driven away 2.5 seconds ahead. He can go neutral. And keep that fuel going, though. Drive away from these guys, as Doohan now around Ocon. Stroll into the pits.
DRS enabled.
Attack. Come on, get him in, get him under braking. We're almost out of battery. That's kind of why I want to make this happen now. There we go. We do get up the inside of the Haas. Can we finish the move? Down to standard.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
And we will put deploy on. It's not going to last long, but we want to get out of range of Tsunoda. 5/10 ahead.
Full deploy.
So P1 and P2 quite quickly. 9/10 ahead of Tsunoda. Over a second ahead. Over a second ahead. Down to neutral. Lap 52, folks. Lap 52. 1.6 ahead. Let's go balanced. We don't need any mistakes from these guys, right? 2 seconds ahead of Russell, who has made his way through, and Leclerc, and they've made their way through because the others have pit. But the gap is there. We've pulled away. Russell, 1.7 back, though. Got to keep an eye on that one. The whole field is in a very similar state, tire-wise.
Safety car.
Ooh, that was a quick safety car.
Copy.
It was 1 lap. It's lap 62. We're going to resume on lap 63. We'll have 63, 4, 5, and 6. 4 laps to run, folks. 4 laps to run. And we are definitely quicker, but now we have a challenge on our hands. Deploy.
Use DRS.
DRS is about to get opened,
2 more laps.
but
2
with
more
an
laps.
8/10 advantage, we might be able to get out of range of Russell here, who's almost out of range of Leclerc, by the way. 2 laps to go, and a pretty healthy advantage at the moment, but not quite out of DRS range. So close, 9.8. It's over a second now. It is over a second. There's a DRS line, and he does not get DRS. He does not get DRS. Oh, Doohan. Doohan's going to overtake Porsche, isn't he? They're going to have a battle here on the final lap. Please don't hurt each other. Please don't hurt each other. Not fair to Porsche. I'm going to put you on aggressive first. But if Doohan takes it, he takes it. Porsche's led the entire way and deserves this. But I'm not going to tell him not to fight. I'm just going to favor one over the other. Just a little bit. Do it again with DRS. But this time not enough to close that down. We'll give him one last chance. Overtake on. And aggressive.
Easy overtake.
Copy.
And defend.
If you've got any pace left, it would be good now.
Equal showing for the end.
Copy.
And Pourchaire's going to hang on, take the win with Doohan finishing second. It's a 1-2 finish. Russell does hold off Leclerc for third place. Perez gets up to P7 for Ferrari, but we are going to gain substantial points as Verstappen only managed to get back up to P13 after a double mistake day from him. Doohan made a mistake today. We were not punished for it. Pourchaire has had a number of clean races lately, and this might put us into the Constructors' lead. Let's see. It does give us the Drivers' Championship lead, as Pourchaire now has a 7-point lead over Russell. Doohan jumps to third, and in the Constructors, we do take the lead by 14 points with a whopping 44 points today. 164 now on the season. That's going to do it for this episode. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.